Welcome to Trapped Live with Bill Boggs, and today's special guest, one of the funniest women in showbiz, Lisa Lampanelli, with guest appearances by Howard Stern and Don Rickles, because everybody is alive on Trapped Live. Today's show is brought to you by the new Laugh Out Loud novel, The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog, as told to Bill Boggs. I'm your humble announcer, Jeff Leibowitz, and now, here's Spike's best friend, Bill Boggs.
Hi, folks. It's good to be with you again on Trapped Live. And we have Lisa Lampanelli with us. We're going to introduce her in just a second. And Jeff Leibowitz, because Lisa Lampanelli is here, I brought along a couple of my friends who specialize in transgressive humor. So we've got, I know you're there, Stewie.
Ah!
I know you're there, Lisa. Oh, Lisa, I love you so much. And Griffin. There's Brian.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm a huge fan of Family Guy. I met Seth MacFarlane at a few of those roasts, and boy, we cleaned each other's
I love Family Guy. Look, I actually wrote out, there is my scroll, a introduction to you. But first, I want to thank our announcer, Jeff Leibowitz, in person.
My pleasure.
Right?
Always wonderful to be here.
You'll be chiming in more. So, Lisa Lampanelli, Catholic schools, very middling education at Syracuse, Boston, and Harvard, middling. Begins her career as a struggling journalist. She's writing for one of my favorite old magazines, Spy Magazine. She's writing articles, she's doing profiles, boom! She becomes a stand-up comedian, but not just any ordinary stand-up comedian. She becomes the Queen of Mean, an insult comedian inspired by the great Don Rickles and with a subtext of Howard Stern in there, and announces a retirement from stand-up just within the last year and a half, and is now doing an amazing amount to help people. So the Queen of Mean has evolved into the Queen of Meaning, and that's what today's show is all about. Welcome, Lisa Lampanelli.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. And by the way, you made me sound much smarter and more accomplished than I am, because I went to Syracuse, in BC. But what was hilarious was I went to this summer program at Harvard for 6 weeks. They only let me into these real good schools for 6 weeks and then kicked me out. So I'm not that smart.
You made 6 weeks, though. That's pretty good. Well, in my career as an interviewer, I've been blessed to interview creative people and successful people, as well as people who bomb. And I've always been fascinated by the nucleus of something that someone knows about themselves that enables them to believe in that gift that they have and make it flourish. When did you first really know that you had the special gift of humor?
Well, what's funny is I wrote in my very big non-best-selling autobiography, Chocolate Please, I wrote that the first time I ever remember getting a laugh was when I was 8 years old and I was having dinner at my Aunt Rose and Uncle Dom's house, and I made a joke. But of course, in my family, you don't leave well enough alone. You tell it twice and try to milk it. So I bombed right after I killed. So I remember I was like, I always knew I could make people chuckle and be the class. Now I wasn't a class clown, but I was kind of I would say these little remarks to make people laugh under the teacher's nose, and nobody would get mad at me. So I think I got this hint early on that, I got a little something that makes me be able to insult people without them getting pissed at me. And then, so when I started comedy at 30, I was like, oh, I kind of see how Rickles and Stern, they make fun, but we still love them. So I think that part of my personality just came out in full force.
Well, so as I read it, because we've known each other for a while, but to get ready for the show, I had to actually learn more about you than, just times we've been in person, that it was the Dean Martin roasts, which is essentially a roast that has evolved from the Friars Club, where they get a celebrity. And Dean Martin did these things as if they were in Vegas. Maybe they were in Vegas, a huge table of celebrities. And that essentially, is that one of the major things that inspired you, Lisa?
Huge, because when we were growing up, we didn't watch stand-up in the house. There was 3 channels. You didn't watch anything else. But I remember my parents and us would watch these Dean Martin roasts. And I'm like, oh, I bet that's what stand-up's like. Like, I bet you're always surrounded by friends making fun of each other. So I think it was a natural progression that I would sort of have that roast mentality call to me. So I ended up doing a lot of crowd work at first, making fun of the audience. Then the roast developed. So I'm like, oh, it makes a lot of sense if I look back on my early influences.
Right. Well, Don Rickles was when he broke onto the scene, which was probably in the 60s, really, as just insulting everybody with this smile on his face.
Yep.
He could play a small room, a Vegas room, and I saw him open for Sinatra out in Long Island in a really large venue.
Yeah.
And it all worked. So we dug up a clip.
Yay.
Don Rickles, your inspiration, followed by a clip of you doing your thing as a roast mistress. So
Cool.
we can take a look at that clip. We'll see what happens. We'll just see you in action.
Yay, thanks.
After Rickles.
Here we go.
Frank, may I say publicly to you, is the bomb of the year. Dick Haymes would have had a turnout. It's all over, Frank. I know you don't like to hear that. Gone. To my black brothers, Red Fox, Flip Wilson, the Wonder Page, sorry. It's your whole life. Your dear, wonderful, wonderful new wife, Barbara. Barbara, the one with the diamond on her nose. I have a Jewish wife. She doesn't do that. She has so much jewelry on, she can't keep her head up.
Donald, tonight people will make fun of your looks. Fuck them! You've always gotten beautiful women. You've ruined more models' lives than bulimia. You've disappointed more women than Sex and the City 2. You are the ultimate proof that money can buy good-looking pussy. If you were broke, you'd be fucking me.
Oh, wow. Good stuff.
I tell you what, I am so talented. It's surprising I could walk away from that career.
Oh, well, we'll get into that later in the show. Let's just feed some stuff along that people can get a sense of the edge that you use in case they've not seen any of your work. So let's look at season 12 or season 5, Celebrity Apprentice. You finished in the last 4.
Yeah.
Some of the people who were involved in that show, Penn Jillette comes to mind, or Cheryl Teague. She didn't even make it out.
Poor thing.
Yeah, tell us about some of your comrades there. Arsenio Hall.
Clay Aiken.
Yeah, Troy.
Clay Aiken was my favorite girl on the show. She really was. And the thing is, what I loved about doing the show was I did Celebrity Apprentice to prove that comics were smart, that we actually do more than just make people laugh and are clowns. So when I made it to the top 4 and I earned $130,000 for my charity, the Gay Men's Health Crisis, I was like, oh my God, I've accomplished everything I wanted to. And it was really the hardest thing I've ever done, honestly, Bill.
Why?
It is the hardest work because basically you work 16 hours a day, 6 days a week with 18 type A douchebags. I'm sitting there trying to not get stuffed in the trunk by Victoria Gotti's kids. I'm trying to not piss off Lou Ferrigno. I mean, this was a scary thing. And most of the women in my episodes of The Apprentice, they were a bunch of dummies. There was a Real Housewife. There was a Miss Universe. They were about as useful as a tampon at Betty White's house, okay? So I'm sitting there fighting for my life with these dummies. And thank God, this was back when Trump had a sense of humor, so he really liked me, and we were able to really, move forward and win that money for charity.
Did as a host of the show, did Donald Trump put in a lot of time? I mean, as a host, I'm always interested in what the host is really doing before you actually see the show.
Yeah, no, what happens, I mean, and they don't lie about it or pretend during the show that he does much. What they say is, he gives the task and the assignment. You have a big task every week. And then at the end, he's in the boardroom with you, analyzing. But your real mentors are his kids or his executives or whatever. So it was a crazy time. It was exhausting. It was difficult. And I tell you what, this was, like I said, at the time, Trump really had a sense of humor about it. So I had a pleasant enough experience. I was very lucky.
Yeah, that's good. How did you approach offending people? We know when we're going to get into this, that we live in well, maybe it's all behind us now, the ultra sensitivity and the ultra protection. We'll get into that. But what was your approach? I mean, Rickles said the friars say we only roast the ones we love. Yeah. How did you handle going everything?
Well, was my feelings always. If you can't make fun of everybody, you can't make fun of anybody. So if a comic is only making fun of one group, like say Asians or gay people or whatever, it's like, oh, that's really not fair. So since I don't have prejudice, I was like, oh, I can just make fun because they'll be able to see and know what my intention is and that I have a big heart. So that worked for a long time. That worked for 30 years because people could honestly see, and they would write to me and they'd be like, oh my God, we're going to be the 5 gay guys sitting at the front row. Can you make fun of us? Call us this, that, the other. And I even had Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin came up to me. She had seen my show in Vegas. She came as my guest. And she says, for Kathy Griffin to say this was the biggest compliment. She's like, how do you get away with saying that stuff? That's insane. And I go, I don't know. They keep saying it's okay. They keep asking me for it. And then sort of the climate, I guess, changed. And I was lucky enough to kind of get grandfathered into, oh, she doesn't mean it. And, could you do that kind of comedy now? Maybe not. But hey, you know what? Who knows what comes around goes around. You never know.
A lot of what you're doing, in addition to being inspired by Don Rickles, whom we've seen, is Howard Stern. And when I asked you, who would you like to see on the show, you mentioned Howard Stern. Yeah. This gives me the unique opportunity. I don't know if you've ever seen this clip, Lisa, but I had a show in the mid-'80s, a syndicated show. It's called Comedy Tonight. I told you about that. We booked 450 comedians on it. And a lot of them is on my YouTube channel, BillBoggsTV. Anyway, so we were very tight with all of our comedians. You have 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. We helped edit their material. But Stern said, look, I want 5 minutes. Okay, Howard. And I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. So Richard Baker, my partner in Boggs Baker Production, we tell, let's see what happens. We're running ourselves. We're not real uptight. So Howard comes out, and we don't know what's going to happen. And he puts me in a complete S&M outfit. My hands are like this. My feet are like this. I got the thing over my head. He's got a Red Bull in my mouth. And while he's doing it, he's going, are you okay? Is everything all right? It was like this. So I want to show you part of this clip. More people over the past 20 years have asked me about this. How did you let him do that? But it was all like wrestling. So Jeff Leibowitz, roll the clip. Back to Comedy Tonight. And
Hey, welcome back to the Howard Stern Show. We had this next comedian on our show once before, and we were happy we could find his way back here. He's Jack Cohen with some... What is it?
A lot of dignity involved in this routine.
We had him up for Jack Cohen with some thoughts on America's image. Mike Egan is a world traveler who says his favorite place to be is in your living room. Anybody feel like squirting Bill? Go ahead. Go ahead, do it to him. You want to do the show about? Yeah, don't worry about it. Hey, what is it? Mike Egan? What do you think, babes? Hey, giddy up! Who wants to ride Bill? Come on down! Giddy up, boy! Giddy up, boy! Wait! Hey, what? I gotta say one thing. Where's my camera? Camera. Howard Stern will be back on this program. Listen to me out there. He'll be back, and I will get even. Hey, thanks so much.
Did you like that? Yeah.
I love it. You know what the best part of the whole thing is, Bill, and I think you'll know what I mean. The fact that he kept saying, "Are you okay?" etc., whether it's in your ear or on the mic, shows that it was a joke, that he had a big heart. Comics who make fun or who roast, etc., they're always checking in. So if they're successful, it's because they have love for the subject. He could have never done that if he didn't like you. I mean, and so I always count on audiences to know that there was love in my heart for them. So that's why I think the Stern thing with you worked.
It was fun. Yeah, we came on kind of fast. Let's just take a minute and talk about where we are in the world. We're there in your apartment, in your home in undisclosed location. What's that behind your head?
Oh, it's a quote on the wall, because when it says how beautiful it is to do nothing and then rest after. Because I really, in all my life, you know, I worked so hard as a comic, I never rested. And I think it's an exhausting profession. You have to give everything you got to it. And I needed a reminder that, you know what, sometimes you got to just sit there for a day, a week, a month and just chill.
That's your sentence. You wrote that for yourself, or did you grab
that? Oh, no, that I found that online and I put it on the wall myself, because I said, that's the message I need to remind myself of.
So let's go around the tube here. How was your week at home in terms of the crisis, the plague that we're experiencing? How are you doing with it all?
Well, I'm really fortunate because I'm privileged enough to live in a house that has a roof over my head. I have enough food in the refrigerator. We don't have any real shortages in Connecticut of anything. You know, yes, it might take 2 stops to get toilet paper, but so what? That's a blessing to even be able to get it. And I'm lucky enough that I live alone, so I'm not annoyed by anyone. And I have 2 dogs who are just the best and the funnest companions. And I talk on the phone constantly to friends. So, and I schedule things like this once in a while, so I feel alive. So I feel like I'm working, and I feel like I'm have a reason to wake up in the morning. But I get up every day, put on makeup, shower, this, that, and I go, you're in the world. So honestly, I'm an introvert anyway, who had an extroverted job. I'm not saying I love quarantine, because it wouldn't be true, but I'm having a much easier time than a lot of people out there.
Absolutely. Look at them. When I saw my friends are saying, we're here in Palm Beach with the ocean out there. Oh, we're ordering out from this restaurant. We're ordering out from that restaurant. And then I see on the news, the TV over there, the lines, miles and miles long.
Yeah.
You have to thank whoever you want to thank and be grateful that you're in a situation like this and not take it for granted. Jeff, how was your week?
It was great. We have, as you know, a very large yard with 75 trees and a lot of fruit trees. So we were looking at our fruit maturing, and we have pineapples growing. And I take my pellet gun and go kill a bunch of iguana at the request of the state of Florida, I might add.
Oh,
okay. You're not out there hunting. Okay.
Well, I kind of am. The state of Florida has a situation where we're overrun with iguana, and the state actually said, please try and kill as many as you can. So I try to do my part.
Plus, of course, there's nothing like an iguana omelet in the morning.
Of course. There are people that do that, by the way.
I know.
Jeff, I'm proud of Jeff for doing the Lord's work. I really am. I think the phrase shooting your lizard is something they're probably used to doing.
No, I'm happily married, but anyway.
A piece of really good news out of the Palm Beach Post in the, just what we needed compartment, in addition to the plague, right? In addition to hurricanes, we have this. We are the sinkhole capital of America. I don't know why it has to do with the basin or something like that. So you're driving off to get your test, and this happens. Lady Jane, my beloved girlfriend, is here to chime in on this. She got a terrific email this week. Let's say one that is worth.
Hi there. Yes.
Hi, honey.
Lisa. Well, you know, the social isolation, it's lonely. And I do have bills, so life is never boring, but still, you know, you miss your friends. And there's been a lot of emailing going on. But this week, I've gotten no emails. Every morning I wake up to check my emails to see who might be thinking of me. And nothing. This week is nothing, except this morning, I get one that says, we miss you. How are you? And I get excited, and then I look to see who is it from. It's from Saks Fifth Avenue.
We haven't seen you.
I'm such a good customer, but they're closed or I would be there.
Of course you would. Well, you know, I admire your moxie. I admire the fact that you're a big shopper, because I am too. I got a similar email, but it was sadder because it was from AARP. So I can't even say that I'm happy about that.
Funny.
I'll tell you what, I think we're going to make a transition here. I want to talk about transgressive humor. That's why I have my friends Stewie and Brian. I've written a book, which is, is the sponsor of the show. The book is The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog, as told to Bill Boggs, which means for the 3 years I was writing the book, I literally had a dog narrating in my head. So we'll run a commercial for the book, and then I want to talk a little bit about really why I put a politically incorrect humor warning on the cover of the book and how things affected you and where we may be going. So here's a message from our sponsor.
Yes.
Alan Zweibel, original Saturday Night Live writer and Thurber Prize-winning author of The Other Showman, says, "The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog is so smart, witty, and inventive that I had to keep reminding myself that I didn't write it." And now for the most important part of the commercial, order today at orderspike.com.
Basically, the book is a Post Hill Press. It's actually being published May 19th, so it's advanced orders now. So I just want to take a moment because it is our sponsor, my book. I started writing, and a voice came into my mind that was essentially a transgressive voice, not a mean voice, but an observational humor voice. And I found myself within the first hour realizing that as I had something going as a writer that every writer looks for, the voice in their head. And as I moved through Spike the Wonder Dog, observing the foibles of human beings, the situations he gets into with his master as a talk show host, I realized I am writing things that, while not particularly mean in the environment of going to offend people, whether it's sexism or essentially sometimes just stereotypes. There is a lot of truth, I must say, in stereotypes. So I'm interested to see what will happen in this environment with my book, because the reason I put a warning on the cover simply was, I don't want people coming after me. I said, hey, I warned you. And it's really not mean. Some people said, no, it's charming, it's cute. How did the safety movement, the trigger warning movement, the snowflake movement, mean the ultra sensitivity affect your work ultimately?
Well, I was really lucky. Again, like I said, I somehow was grandfathered in. My audience understood me. It's almost as if Rickles were still alive and playing, his audience would still go to see him. So I think what happened with mine is, now that I've kind of really not experienced backlash from comedy, I unfortunately do feel some of it now because I'm trying to progress in a different direction and a non-political, I'm in a more politically correct direction now because I feel it in my heart. So I find some pushback of like, well, but you used to say this stuff and you used to, and that's why I hate cancel culture. I hate when you sort of write somebody off from the past. People can grow and change. So while I don't make apologies to anyone from past audiences unless I hurt their individual feelings. I mean, if somebody came up to me and said, I felt so sad when you called me a certain name or whatever, I'd say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah. But I don't apologize to groups. I don't apologize for my career. But right now, when you try to move forward as a sort of a tweaked person, you do feel there's pushback. And again, that's my journey. And I'm so lucky that I'm able to at least go, okay, I can move forward, not have my feelings hurt and move ahead.
Jeff, we were talking about this, Jeff and Leslie and Jay and I had a Zoom cocktail hour. I'd never done that. It was quite pleasant. So we're talking a little bit about this subject. And you have a question yourself, right, Jeff?
Yeah, with kind of a long setup that I'll apologize for up front. Mel Brooks says that PC culture has ruined comedy and he could never make Blazing Saddles today. Chris Rock and Jerry Seinfeld will no longer play college campuses. Dennis Miller and Gilbert Gottfried have written articles called The Mea Culpa Generation and The Apology Epidemic, respectively. And Dad Whitney, better known as Larry the Cable Guy, has even written fairy tales to be politically correct. My question is, do you think we'll ever again be able to get the kind of great comedy and laughs that starting with people like Moms Mabley and Red Fox and Don Rickles and you were finally able to get us? Will we ever be able to get that back again?
There are some people really doing great politically incorrect stuff still, and I think that's fantastic. that they're able to hold their audience and are able to attract new people and people knowing it's a joke. But I think anybody who has a platform, all they have to do is look themselves in the eye in the mirror and say, listen, why am I doing this? Is it serving me? Is it serving the people I aim to entertain? And if you could do it with no apologies and you can really answer to yourself a resounding, I'm just here to make people laugh, it's okay. So I'm never in the position to say, oh my God, finger wag, you shouldn't do this, so-and-so, insert comic name here, just like I don't want it done to me. But I myself, when I found that, oh, you know, what I'm doing probably isn't contributing that much good to the world anymore, I want to pivot and do something that I feel is more fulfilling to me, then that's why I wanted to make a pivot into storytelling and concentrating on issues that I care about. But, you know, it's really going to be an uphill climb, I think, for someone who's just starting and wants to do edgy humor. It's just going to be a harder environment.
Yeah. Let me offer a point. Our entire society has changed, and it changed like that because of the plague. On the first show with Tom Cotter, I made this point, I'm repeating it now. Look at what we're going through now. When we come out of this, are we really going to be so easily offended about somebody saying something that I disagree with, or you made fun of that person? Maybe this is toughening us up in a way that we need it to be toughened up. If you read David Brooks' column in the New York Times today, he's talking about the safety culture with children being raised and coddled and this, that, and the other thing. Does not prepare you for what life is.
Right.
Now, Jeff, let's go to the clip of Lisa announcing her retirement on the Howard Stern show, and then let's talk about how the Queen of Mean, Queen of Meaning.
Yes.
Lisa, and I was shocked, and
Really?
I have feelings about this.
Okay.
Lisa is retiring from stand-up comedy. She will no longer perform. This is, she performed her last stand-up set in June.
Yep.
You got aggravated with the audience.
Well, no, that wasn't why I'm retiring. I decided to retire from stand-up about 2-3 years ago. When my father was sick about 6 years ago before his death, I was like, you know what? I really loved helping him.
Right.
I loved helping people. And pretty soon, those 5 years of comedy started feeling like the message is getting lost. The message of including people through insults is getting lost.
Right.
And now maybe, God forbid, I'm being misunderstood by different races, transgender people, gay people, even though I have love in my heart. And I said, you know what? I want to do something that has a clear message to make people feel better about themselves. So now what I feel is I have these connections through storytelling events, through workshops I'm giving about food and body image, that I feel like, wow, that's what it feels like.
So today, when you roast Ronnie, the last time you will be mean.
It's it. Oh, never again. I mean, yes, to my friends and family, I'll still call them cunts.
All right, Lisa, very impressed, as I said at the top of the show. The first thing I heard about you doing was a show which has been retitled, originally called Stuffed. So tell us about that one-woman show. The new title is...
Well, what I did was I had a play off Broadway that I wrote, and Alan Zweibel, actually, who you mentioned before, had helped me shape it, because he's a genius. And it was called Stuffed. It was off Broadway. It was a play. It was 4 women on stage and a cast of 4. So once that was done, 2 runs of that, I decided to edit it into...
What was it about?
Oh, food. Yeah, it was about food and body image issues, but funny. So it wasn't slapsticky or jokey. It was real stories from our lives, but it was definitely humorous, but with the point of self-acceptance and self-love, because I'd had weight and food issues from age 18 up to 50. So I took that show once it was done off Broadway and edited it down to a storytelling show that we tour the country with me, and we put a guy in the cast, a gay guy, and because men have food issues too. And what I love about the show is it's the perfect combination of funny plus heart. I think it was great to be an insult comic. It was funny, no heart. And now it's like, there's no question that there's a message in there about self-acceptance and liking where you are in life.
Where do you think, I was an overweight child. I've had body image issues my entire life. I think like 98% of every day of my life as an adult, I have to lose 3 pounds.
Yep.
What's this going on? Jeff, I know you are on the same team here with regard to that. Where did your food issues begin? Was this like food too much? Like to eat too much? That simple?
No, it's all, in my opinion, 90% of this stuff I've been working on eating issues for so long with therapists and rehabs and things, that it's really emotional eating, and it's unhealthy. What I feel is emotional eating is fine. Comfort food is fine. It makes us feel happy. It's traditional. It's our families. It's Italian culture, Jewish culture, Latin American culture. But what happens is when you start to numb and stuff your feelings and use food to get through as a medication.
All right, well, let me ask you this. Somebody's home, serious question here. Somebody's home right now. They're by themselves, or maybe they've got a mate. They've been in quarantine for a couple of weeks. They're overeating. They know they shouldn't be doing it. What do you say to the person who recognizes they're now somewhat out of control? What's the first thing you want to say to help that person?
Well, the big thing in quarantine, this is a trauma. This is not something normal. This is something where people are going to need tons of therapy afterwards. No one has ever lived through anything like this since 1918, and they're not alive anymore, most of them, to tell us how to get through. So all bets are off in quarantine. If food is the only thing getting you through, at least you didn't pick heroin, at least you didn't pick cocaine, at least you didn't pick meaningless, dangerous sex out of quarantine. You picked something that, thank God, we have access to if we're privileged enough to have food and to be able to use for comfort. I say the less you beat yourself up and the more you forgive yourself for it right now, great. When you get here, what's that?
How do you put the brakes on? I mean,
I don't think there can be brakes right now. I think right now we are in such a traumatic state that it's self-forgiveness is the only thing that works. I am lucky enough that I had weight loss surgery and kept my weight off. So I have almost a built-in mechanism to not make me eat more than I need. Yeah. But boy, I'll tell you, I'm eating every kind of food on the planet. I'm eating any kind of food that's delicious, whether it's chocolate, whether it's cake, because guess what? Who knows what's happening? Let's get through this, then forgive ourselves, and then go for whatever we want to move forward after that.
I'm sitting here, I'm feeling this roll around my stomach. All four of us here, I'll start with you. Do you have one food that you know you really should not buy and have in the house? Because
want to know what's,
or you want some, I want that, but hide it from me. What's yours, Lisa?
Want to know what's ironic about that? I was just talking to my dietitian about that yesterday. There used to be two foods and they don't exist anymore because I allow all foods in my house. And I find I don't eat them if they're here because they don't call to me because I'm not forbidding them. The minute you forbid a food is when you binge. So basically starvation leads to binging. So it used to be Oreos and Hershey's Kisses. However, I've had Oreos in my house for a week. I forgot about them because I allow everything. That's the secret, is allowing.
Allowing is good. All right, Jeff, what's yours? That one thing you keep out of the house.
No doubt about it. Ice cream. I am an ice creamaholic.
Yep.
All right, mine is, Jane's going to bring hers, actually show you hers. Mine is peanut butter. I think if I'm, my last meal, my last day, they finally caught up with me for everything I've been doing that nobody knows about. Peanut butter, cheddar cheese, and Polymer raspberry spread on really good bread, really thick. I love peanut butter, cheese, and jelly. Give me one of those sandwiches, and like I'm in the Macy's parade. I mean, that's how it goes. Now, here's Jane with the actual. Here it is.
One second. I'm holding something is a substitute. My favorite, what I now would love to have in the house, which I discovered recently at Whole Foods, is a chocolate swirl brioche. It's like a challah with chocolate going through it. It's fabulous. But because I didn't go to Whole Foods yesterday, I went to 2J's here in Florida and got some.
Love it.
But next to the turkey, of course, are the pastries. And they also, by the way, one second, I'm going to show it, Bill. He's annoying me. They have a sign up that shows all the cakes they have and how many calories per slice. So coconut cream was like the worst, coconut layer cake, and then the carrot cake really bad. The one with the fewest calories was key lime pie. So I did buy a slice and I ate half of it last night.
Half?
I controlled myself.
That's good.
I'm having the other half this evening.
Well, listen, right. I'll tell you, I think that's terrific. I think we should allow what we have. Hey, you know what? All we can do now is hope to remain as healthy as we can from this corona. That's the only thing I'm thinking about. And I go, you know what? If I have a bag of Hershey's Kiss, oh, well, I'll live.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
A couple of things that we're going to wrap it up. I was really impressed that you do personal coaching with people. Tell me a little bit about how that works and tell us a little bit about your storytelling shows, and we'll wrap it up and eat.
Yes. Well, the thing is, what was funny about the coaching was I've now distilled it into workshops and group coaching because honestly, Bill, this one-on-one coaching kills me because I have a fault. Believe it or not, I'm not perfect. I want everybody to change at the rate I want them to change. That's not good. You can lead people to their answers. You can't give them answers. So I instead give small workshops of a finite amount of time so I don't get annoyed at people for not moving forward. It's none of my business how fast they change. So I give them the info, say, go with God, do what you need to do. The thing I love most other than workshops is I love this storytelling show called Losing It, which comes from the play Stuffed. And I'm telling you, once we get the dates back on the books, of course, everything's canceled for this year. But when the dates are back on the books, I'm going to be going to Austin, Chicago, Jersey, anywhere that wants to hear a funny message about something that we all need to talk about.
I want to urge folks watching, I think you'd enjoy going to lisalampanelli.com, her website. I spent a lot of time reading it, and more than I even had to, just because I was so entertained by it. Yesterday, to wrap things up here, we found out that at age 81, the truly great actor, Brian Dennehy, died. Back on my days on the Food Network, when I had entered the biggest scam of my career, I got the Food Network to pay me really good money to go to the best restaurants in America, sit down with big name celebrities, eat for free, and be on television.
Wow.
I had a wonderful evening with Brian Dennehy at the Palm Restaurant. And there's a quote that stood out from that interview that I'd like to leave us all with a quick comment about it, where I got Brian talking about his view of what success really is. Jeff, let's take a look.
I read that you said you think it's really important to have passion in your life and that you should find something you're passionate about and simply do it. I mean, is that the lesson here in Brian Dennehy's life, that passion has driven you to success and happiness rather than crazy?
Well, I'm not so sure. It doesn't necessarily give you success.
Yeah.
I mean, living a passionate life has its own rewards. I know a lot of people who live passionate lives who have never had what Americans would call success. One is not necessarily dependent on the other. If you lead a passionate life, that's by definition a successful life as far as I'm concerned.
It's a wonderful quote, isn't it?
Oh my God. I literally have chills because I've been working on, oh my God, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? And I recently discovered living purposefully and living fully, as he's talking about, it's its own reward. So even if it's not monetarily huge, or even if it doesn't look big on paper, at least every day you're living with some kind of purpose. So I love that quote.
It's important at this point to recognize if your passion in life is like fly fishing, you're not out there doing it. However, if you can turn your passion to the people you really care about, this is not a time, folks, to withhold friendship. It's a time to be on the phone, on the computer, reaching out to people. I want to thank Bernard Wanstock up there in Woodstock for the Spike the Wonder Dog theme. My partner, Richard Baker, who was standing in the background watching Howard Stern water at me, and Jeff Leibowitz and Lady Jane.
Aw.
What a wonderful time we had with you, Lisa. Boy, I enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Bill, I always loved you. I remember years ago you interviewed me at the Friars Club, a one-on-one. My whole family came. My dad was still alive. He was so proud. We got pictures with you. You've always been a gentleman. And you know what? That's what the world needs more of. So thanks for having me. This was great.
Mason, if I could hit a reboot button right now, man, I would eject Dr. Phil and zoom you right in. Right in. As a self-help show on television. Now you'll need an announcer. You'll need somebody to play off of.
I'm taking, as soon as I get that show, you're in, baby.
Jeff Leibowitz, thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. We'll do it again next week with who?
We have Ann Hampton Calloway next week. We're going to be looking at George Carlin next week. And we're going to be looking at Wanda Sykes next week. All part of Trapped Live at 5 o'clock. And then it lives on BillBoggsTV on YouTube. I only say that. I don't like to refer to myself as a third person. That's the name of the show. Thank you, folks. Stay safe. Say at the end of the show, keep your guard up at all times. Thank you.
Love you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Oh my God, Bill, it was great.
Bennett, author of Last Girl Before Freeway, The Life, Loves, Losses, and Liberation of Joan Rivers, warns us that, like Joan Rivers, the adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog is definitely not safe for snowflakes. But fans of transgressive humor, like Family Guy or Dave Chappelle, will appreciate Spike's wild tales, which are raunchy, hilarious, and spectacularly politically incorrect. Bill Boggs has the manners of a gentleman, as does Spike, so they'll both understand if you take offense. Rivers would have just told you to go fuck yourself.